Hey everybody, Mr. Duker back again, super simplified social studies. And today we're talking about the foundations of American government, right? So in your government classes, one of the first things they'll always do is go over some of the basic concepts and ideas that the United States, our government is built off of, right? So the United States, we like to kind of pick and choose these ideas that come throughout history and kind of mix them together. And that's how we get our government. But today we're looking at like the building blocks, the things that came before the Constitution and those ideas that we borrow and steal to make our government. So going back, this all goes with the colonies. Oops, there we go. So going back to the original English colonists, right? When people come here across the Atlantic to settle North America, they're coming for lots of different reasons. New land, new opportunities, religious freedom, try and get some wealth. But one thing they all have in common is they're kind of stranded. These people are on their own. And so they quickly realize that, it's up to them to make these new governments. It's up to them to provide rule and leadership and law, because the King of England and, the old English government, it's far away across the Atlantic Ocean. And they're going to have to rely on themselves to try and make governments that work. They have to solve their own problems. They have to kind of police and take care of themselves. But when they start making these early governments, they're still going to borrow heavily from what they know, which is English tradition. So a lot of this is based on ideas of English government. And the granddaddy of them all is like the Magna Carta, right? So the Magna Carta, this comes all the way back to the Middle Ages. There was a king, his name was King John II. Not a great king. He was overtaxing the people, throwing them in jail for no reason, a couple executions here and there. Basically, he was running England into the ground, and so bad that his subjects, his lords, his advisors were kind of rising up and threatening to overthrow him if he didn't change his ways. So trying to keep his neck, King John decided to sit down and work out a deal, a compromise with these people and try and settle and calm some of these complaints that they were having. That's what the Magna Carta is. King John agreeing to put limits on his power, right? This is one of the very first times you see a king agreeing to limit himself for the good of the people. But that's what the Magna Carta does. And in it, he agrees, can't throw you in jail for no reason, or if you go to jail, you'll have your day on trial. Can't just throw you behind bars. You'll get a chance to kind of prove your innocence. No taxation or representation, protecting your life, property, and freedom. All those ideas kind of are written down for the first, well, not first time, but they're written down and become common law in the Magna Carta, right? It also establishes precedents or common law, which is basically the idea that that resolutions from previous court cases, right, will still carry over to today. So when you go into court or when you're on trial, you're not starting over from scratch. Does that make sense? That legal proceedings that have come before you still stand today. So we kind of are building on laws and fairness and legal rule and stuff like that. So precedent just means kind of using again court decisions that have come before, but over time that kind of pads and builds up the law that everybody has to follow and respect. You also have what's called the Petition of Right. And what this is, it's another document, comes a little bit later, and this establishes that the king needs to obey the law. Nobody is above the law. So just because you're king doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. You can't go around murdering people or stealing things. It puts, again, more limits on those people in power, and it's called the English Petition of Right. Example, think of today, right? Say like the governor of your state was caught speeding down the highway, gets pulled over, police officer writes them a ticket. The governor can't be like, oh, well, wait a minute, I'm the governor, I'm in charge here, and, I make and set these speed limits so I can, because I'm in charge, I can go as fast as I can. The laws don't affect me. No, not the case, right? You still have to follow the laws just like everybody else. But again, that idea comes from the English Petition of Right. No one is above the law. Self-government. Like I said, these colonists are here and kind of stranded. They're dependent on themselves to rule. And from the very earliest colonies, you see this happening already. Specifically, the Mayflower Compact is one of the very first examples of self-government in the New World. The Pilgrims, when they come to Plymouth Rock, before they even get off the boat, they realize we need to kind of get together and make sure we're all on the same page here if we're going to be successful and if this colony is going to stick. And so they hash out what's called the Mayflower Compact, which is basically a social contract where the Pilgrims agree they're all going to follow the same laws, they're all going to help each other out, they're all kind of on the same team here. And by signing it, you're agreeing to chip in, to follow the laws, be on your best behavior to make sure that this new colony will be successful. But again, they're governing, they're policing themselves. Mayflower Compact, right? Very, very important. And last, just keep it super simplified today. As these colonies start to grow, they start to create self-representative governments based on representation. Again, you don't have a lot of royalty in the New World. If you were rich and and set and wealthy, there's no reason to risk that all traveling across the Atlantic. So you got to have a lot of common people here, and it was these common people who were involved in the government. And so you have a lot of, I guess today we like Congress, right? Each state kind of has its own mini Congress, and the most famous, the one that will show up in all the textbooks, all the tests, is called the House of Burgesses. It was one of the first. It was established in Virginia. There's a photo of it right there. But basically, in the colony of Virginia, the people would vote for representatives to go to that house, and there they would discuss and debate and vote on laws that affected people in Virginia, and then all the people in Virginia would have to kind of follow and obey those laws. But instead of everybody voting, which is messy and takes a long time, people picked people to represent them. And of course, that's still something that we have today with like the House of Representatives and the Senate in the U.S. legislature, right? But again, that idea comes right from the colonies. The people will make up this new government, and the people will participate in it, right? Common, regular, everyday people. So that's it. Those are, again, just some of the basics that you're going to see in your government classes. You can kind of already see how the United States, our government today, is kind of picking and borrowing little bits of these things here and there, but then putting them all together for what will end up being the Constitution later on. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that was quick and easy, and hopefully it helps make a little bit more sense as you learn about these in your classes. All right, cool. I'll catch you later. Mr. Duker out.